Hi, how's it in the name of Christ? How you doing? It's your girl Crancake, Karabo. I hope you're good, Peachy, Stella, and in a neat little bunch. Today's the 25th of October 2024, but there's no timestamp because I felt I wanted this look. I just like it. Okay? Yeah, shoot, there's a lot going on. I did not intend to come and record today, but here am I. And the reason I'm here is because I had to, okay? I couldn't just keep quiet because I am staying alive. Okay, alright, look. Where shall I commence? A person that has been shot multiple times and yet survived will always have a post-traumatic stress about the fact that somebody tried to kill them once before. Okay? Not only will they have that PTSD, but they will have an exquisite paranoia about them inevitably dying any minute now. They will have a trauma. But you see, having a trauma about an impending death or also having a trauma about an attempted murder is still not death itself. The person is still alive, albeit barely living, because they are in a constant state of post-traumatic freaking stress. While I am that person, I have a severity of PTSD. And frankly, I am scared out of my mind that that which is in constant pursuit of me will finally get me. But it's entirely irrelevant that I am scared for my life. Because what's rather important is what's actually going to happen. Children of God across the scriptures have been perpetually pursued for death. And all throughout their pursuit, they were scared that they're not going to be okay. And yet they were. I will not be the first servant of God buried deep in a ditch by jealous brothers, jealous sisters, jealous friends. I will also not be the first person of God put in harm's way for death by jealous brothers, sisters, friends, former colleagues, whatever. I will also not be the first pursued of God's people to come out just when nobody else thought I was coming out. I will also not be the first person that has had exquisite plans all the way down to architectural drawings, basically detailing with granular information the day of my death, how it's going to happen, and where I'm going to be buried. I will not be the first among of God's children to have that happen to them. So much so is my death foreplanned. No, not by God, but by the occult, that I have been told by them that my funeral will happen at West Park Cemetery. The way that they have so planned it, with architectural blueprints and everything. They have also planned who to put the blame on. They have determined that my mother is going to take the heat for having abandoned me until I die. I did a video of that nature yesterday. They also have determined that my entire family is going to be humiliated over and above just my mom by my death. Oh, I forgot to bring out my septum. I like it. So we're gonna bring it out. There it is. It's just chilling, hanging 10 because it's cute. Yeah. They have determined that they're gonna humiliate family members of mine that have put me in a position to die with no one coming for me. Causing people encircling me to say stuff like, listen to this. They all had jobs, and they just watched her basically melt like a snail sprinkled on salt right in front of them. Yes, I will not be the first among God's people to have that level of detailed planning around my death that very simply lived to tell the story. I won't be the first. God does not show me the architectural blueprints of my death that I might be scared. He shows them to me that I might come here and let you know rather what's actually going to happen over here, okay? He has given me a prophetic gifting. This is a sombre message, a macabre message. This here is to award understanding to people as to who here is about to rather pass away instead of me. And when you all die, the very same architectural blueprints that you put out for my death, I am going to put out for yours. However, mine are going to actually be a project embarked upon by the legions of heaven so as to bring forth the final product. So as to bring forth the build project. That is the headstone over your rotting corpses in the ground. But first, before I get into the architectural blueprints of your deaths, some of you of which I don't even know, allow me to tell you a couple of stories of brothers of mine in the Bible that had architectural blueprints of their deaths forecast by evil men and evil women, only for them to gaze upon the rotting corpses of these evil men and women and lived to tell the story. I mean, the first are quite some of the examples are quite obvious. I use them all the time, but I guess, you know, when you've heard a Bible story long enough, sometimes you're inclined to ignore its girth, its importance, the message there behind, like all the stuff therein that's nice and juicy for you to take home. You don't take it home. But I'm going to tell you these stories anyway. My YouTube channel is disquieting. It's unsettling. And you know what? Actually, no. Let me stop right there. Not my YouTube channel. Just my life at all. Occult practitioners, listen to this, okay? You know that somebody is highly called, like exquisitely called, like voluptuously, when you do this to their lives. So I mean, I should be honored instead of ashamed or afraid or nervous that this has been done to my life. I produce volumes of content and it's really excellent. And yet I get no views. On a good day, 2 views per video. I upload volumes of series. So part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, whatever. Only to get viewed by absolutely no one when the message that I speak is as reaching and as telling and as prophetic as it is. The reason I am this severely buried and hidden is because the very people that stand to benefit from my messages are interested in no other thing but the preservation of their sin, or the preservation of the concealing of their sin. They're interested in no other thing but essentially getting away with this. And for me, it's like, okay, if you want the earth to view you as spotless, then you will be awarded exactly that. The Lord is about to give you all of your wildest dreams, all of your wildest desires. The Lord is about to grant you everything that you want. He gave you first and foremost my freezing, because that's what you wanted. And now he's going to enable you to be maintained eternally in the eyes of people as a really great woman or a really great man. You have wanted it with every bone in your body. You have latched onto it with every single fiber of your being. This false reputation of being a great person, when all you do is commit human sacrifice rituals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, following which you lick your fingers and you move on to the next one. Your lives have been heinous, treacherous, and full of murder. You've been conspicuous this entire time. However, on the surface, you look really good. And God has seen that no amount of mercy awarded you works. The Lord has seen that you have no interest so much in the preservation of your souls as you have got an interest rather in the preservation of your reputations. So, given that you have worked so heartily, with every bone in your body invested so mightily in the preservation of your reputations, the Lord is now going to remove from you that which is the award of grace. Yesterday I did a video speaking about do not let grace go to vain. The Lord is going to take the grace away from you that He has awarded you to essentially get over your earthly reputation in exchange for an eternal security. It's written in God's word that it is easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. The Lord has called you all as rich men and women to sell everything you have, take up your crosses, then follow Christ. But because your wealth is too great, because your acquisitions are too manifold, you walked away from that promise somber and chose rather to latch onto your earthly possessions. You've been getting spoon-fed. It's unfortunate. I feel sorry for you. But at this particular juncture, you who have a severe conviction that Jesus Christ is Lord, yet nonetheless hope somehow that this is all going to blow over, God is going to award you your wildest fantasies. The Lord is going to give you that which is a dignified burial. He's going to give you a dignified funeral where you are going to have speeches by multiple people of great earthly importance, speaking haughty things about you, your feats, all the wonderful things you have done, while the bereaved in your family, among your colleagues and friends, will be sobbing away, and everybody imagining that you were taken too soon because the earth absolutely vehemently was still in dire need of your services. You will get a plaque put up on walls in your company as the best CEO that they've ever had, and you will be forever missed. You will get streets named after you following your death. You will get statues erected of you once you have died in all different kinds of buildings as monuments in memory of you and the work that you did therein. You will get speeches spoken in high schools about you by students who choose you for a role model to basically emulate as to what they want to be when they grow up. You will get it all. Essentially, you will be the next Nelson Mandela. You are going to have jam-packed funerals, populated by celebrities and international leaders that will travel from abroad just to see you laid to rest. And your headstone will have a wonderful message on it that everybody that visits your graveside all the way into the future will trickle a tear down their eyes of how it is that you were actually just such a great guy and, like I said, cut off too soon. You will have latched on for dear life to your earthly reputations to the extent of comprehensively freezing in your diabolical disposition. Comprehensively freezing entirely. Saints of the living God that was sent to let you know that today is the day of salvation, the acceptable day of the Lord. That the Lord is aware of, that the Lord is aware of all of your works and what you have been engaged in. All the wonderful feats that you have walked in since you joined the occult, basically your body count, and all the saints that you made to eat dust because you were given a very determined mission as an occult practitioner to essentially wrestle churches. You were put in cults for no other purpose but to visit churches and dismantle them, because the cult you belonged to was all in the interests of manipulating local and foreign policy using magic. And there were these pesky people standing in the way called Christians. And so your mission as an entry-level occult practitioner, that you might be promoted from one place to the next, one layer, one rung of your occult organizations to the next, that you might gain promotion. Ultimately, you first have to do menial tasks, so run a boy work. And so they placed you in churches to distract the peace. Not only that, but also recruit people trying to fellowship with saints and gain redemption. Distract them from continuing and finishing their journey to redemption, but rather join your cults. You made your life's mission to essentially recruit interested parties in Christianity into rather satanic organizations. And upon doing a wonderful job there, upon performing swimmingly in that regard, you then got promoted, and you continued to get promoted until you got to such a prolific level as an occult practitioner that now you're the one that is being called sir or boss by new recruits that get recruited sometimes even from, listen to this, churches. You will have done all of this, and God will have made an observation of it. Let his servants know that this is what you're into, that you might be snatched out from the flames of hell. This will have been God's final attempt at snatching you from an abysmal, hellish eventuality that excels that of any other burning soul in hell, because you will have been in close proximity to the gospel and been an actual mutineer against the body of Christ. You also would have called yourself a Christian for no other reason than to infiltrate Christianity, that you might dismember interested parties in Christ from Christ. And so therefore, fulfilling the scripture where it is written that it'll be better if a millstone were tied around your neck and for you to be thrown in the ocean than for you to face God in the judgment, because you will have caused people interested in God, these little ones essentially, to sin. You will have invested all of this, and because you have had a career spanning 25 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, however long in the occult, just the sheer imagination of all the blood you shed and confessing to it, alongside all the wicked feats you embarked on and confessing to them, not only that, but all the persecution of Christians that you have done, albeit claiming to be a Christian, just by mere virtue of you having to confess to all that, would have been so daunting to you that you will have then latched onto your dear lives. And so therefore, now just in accordance to God's word, as it is being fulfilled, you will lose them. It is written in God's word that if you hold on to your lives, you will lose them. But if you lose your lives for the sake of the kingdom of heaven, you will gain them. You will have latched onto your earthly, meager, lackluster, absolutely debilitating and destructive lives, and God will have then taken them. You have insisted that an innocuous, at least in a heavenly sense, innocent and consecrated woman suddenly, without thought, just commit suicide. You have for months insisted that a completely innocent woman just suddenly grab a noose and kill herself, and you have done this for months. You have insisted upon this for months. You have perpetually returned to the drawing board concerning this for months. You have made it your life's mission to cause a Christian to suddenly commit suicide the way that you have made many other unfortunate souls suddenly commit suicide. People whose families never ever saw this coming. People who in and of themselves had no reason to just suddenly jump out of a 30-story building dead. Because of the very same spells that I am going to survive, but that they didn't, because they were not consecrated to God. You have been doing this on a loop perpetually. You are walking in a deep psychosis, and after killing enough people suddenly from strange suicides that were unexpected by literally everybody, including the dead, you finally tried to do that perpetually, repetitively, on a loop, to a Christian whose survival was fostered by a holy God for no other reason but to show you that there is no other name given there was no other name under heaven given among men by which men must be saved, even from such extreme suicide curses, other than the name of Jesus. The Lord endured his unfortunate saint through a plethora of suicide spells that kept failing on a loop, for no other reason but to show you, seeing as you've been involved in the occult for all these years, and so your heart, your worthless heart, has been darkened and hardened for no other reason but to soften your hard hearts. He has endured his saint through constant survival of death spells, so that you could see that there is a power above the one that you are in. He had mercy on the fact that you were recruited into an occult organization fresh out of high school, fresh out of university. On your first day on the job, you got called to a strange meeting that led you in a trajectory, a path that you imagined you could never ever look back from, no matter how bad it made you feel. You were brought into cults unassumingly, as young men, as young women, and you were immediately given strange wealth that you don't know where it came from, following which you were made to do such dark things that you can't recognize yourself in the mirror anymore. And in order for you to forget about it all, you have allowed yourself to swallow demons that sear consciences, and demons as well that cause you to suppress that which you've done before, to a point of not even remembering some of the people you have killed. The Lord remembers that you were called when you were yet to be properly evangelized. The Lord remembers that you were invited into these secret societies when, like I said, you were unassuming. You were just a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, wet behind the ears university graduate. You were just some kid fresh out of high school with a grandmother that was sick and needed medication. They exploited some kind of weakness that was in your life, and you ran with it. He has mercy on the fact that you were brought into the space before your faith could be solidified in him. And so therefore he allowed you to endure for an extended period of time his very strong Christian through some of the most heinous rubbish under heaven, that she might survive it for no other reason but to show you there is a power beyond that which is the power you have come to trust. that which is a power you have come to respect, and that which is a power you have come to rely on for everything you need. There is a power so opulent above that albeit being a cornucopia against this one woman, she will, in her unitary existence, just by her savvy alone, overwhelm the works of multiple cults, with men and women ranking so high up that they essentially run the whole damn Africa in the occult. And this woman will survive feats of disingenuity against her for no other reason, like I said, but to snatch some of y'all university recruits, albeit now being 45 years old, into the occult. He has survived me through this very expensive sorcery of yours for no other reason but to have mercy on your souls. Because you see, the Lord will do nothing unless he lets his servants, the prophets, know first. The Lord will not vomit judgment on any land absent of him essentially awarding an intercessory force, an advocating force, to speak on behalf of that land to see if something can't be done for it. The Lord will enable prayer and intercession to stay his wrath from finishing a land that is in dire need of being finished off. He will allow Abraham to stand in the gap of Sodom for a season until it can't anymore be rescued. He will enable Noah to tell the people of his day what's coming before he actually ransacks an ecosystem. He will send his prophets. He will send Noah, who's this Jonah, to Nineveh. He will speak volumes even to the most nefarious of men and women to stop this thing before he will eventually effect just judgment, which is the reason why there are so many laments in the scriptures, in the Psalms and the Proverbs littered therein, that why do the wicked prosper? Why do they stay fat? Why do they become fat? Why do they become sleek? The answer to that is that the Lord is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, not willing that anybody should perish, but that all should come to a knowledge of him. The Lord does not delight in the death of him who dieth. He does not delight in the death of the wicked. The Lord will never ever despise a broken and a contrite spirit, and he will always award magnanimity to whomever seeks to exploit it in him. He will always give an olive branch of mercy even in the final second of a man's life. But unfortunately, there is also this fact to table. The road is narrow that leads to life, and only few people find it. It is also a very hard road. The Lord has always just been the Lord of the remnant, not by choice, but because mankind is just evil. And so all that is rescued tends to be just a negligible, macroscopic, countable on just your one hand remnant. The Lord despises men with their many horses and their plots and their schemes and their weaponry, who plot and scheme against him, to a point where he will speak through the psalmist, why do the nations plot in vain? You will be squashed under his thumb, however, not first before being given copious amounts of time to do differently. Why? Because the lake of fire that burns for eternity, whose fire does not consume, where the worm dieth not, and in that place there is going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth, where there will be no rest day and night for those who are therein, has been set apart for the devil and his angels and not for human beings. Therefore, if the Lord can delay your entry into that environment, he will. But unfortunately, no matter how much time people get awarded to stay away from that place, to avoid it, to not neglect so great a salvation, people nonetheless go there. The Lord so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever shall believeth upon him will not perish but have everlasting life. And it is the free gift of God. It is not of anything anyone has done. It is not of works. It's completely free. So indeed, yet again, we shall ask this question: who neglects so great a salvation? Because it's free. If anybody turns to me, thus saith the Lord, I will likewise not turn away. He says, you who are burdened with the sin of all the blood guilt of all the people you've sacrificed in the occult, he says, I know you are heavied. I know you are guilty. I know you are uncomfortable in this thing that you are doing. But this I have to say. Come to me, all of you who labor and are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The occult has not been an easy yoke, neither a light burden. It has worn you out. It has made you try to suppress what you've done to a point of induced amnesia of all the blood you have shed, to a point where you are kind of multi-personalitied. You've got dissociative disorders. You wear multiple personalities in order that certain things you've done, you may be enabled to forget about them. You are made dissociative for that reason, because you've done too much evil in one lifetime. Evil that most men will never see, especially never do. You have committed these abominations in one little lifetime. And so therefore there is no lightness of a burden over there. You are carrying it in your dissociative disorder, in your narcissism, in your comprehensive transformation of personality, such that you are barely recognizable anymore. People do not know who you are in comparison to who you used to be. You are a different man or a different woman. You miss other days, better days, when you still had that innocence of no demons in your body, or not so many that you've got, like I said, multiple personalities. You are carrying an excruciatingly lead-like, steel-like burden on you. And you hope to go to the ground with that. You are determined to go to the grave with that kind of lead on your back. Lead of which can only sink you into a place made for only Satan and his angels. Whilst the Lord says, come to me, all of you who labor and are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Take my very light yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your tumultuous souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It is written in God's word that the wicked are like the tossing sea, whose waters bring up mire and dirt continually. There is no rest, thus saith the Lord, for the wicked. Whereas God says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, and you will find rest for your souls. And you are insistent upon being jostled about by a guilty conscience that you contain, you manage, with not only personality disorders, multiple personality disorder or a dissociative disorder, but with drugs, with alcohol. You are self-medicating in order to escape the reality of what you have become. And God said, I will strip all that weight on you from you. Because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. What is the yoke of God? It is this thing that is underestimated, that people don't realize the value of. It's righteousness. It is a clear conscience. It is going through life with a smile on your face, albeit it being hard for you to put to death the deeds of the body. It appears like the easy thing to do, to just easily gossip, easily fornicate, easily do whatever you want to do in order to titivate your taste buds, please your flesh, run with a corporeal component of you, disregarding and neglecting altogether, therefore, the spirit component of you. It appears easy to just capitulate to your basest sinful desires. But the requisite guilt that follows running with your passions is such a heavy yoke on you that righteousness ultimately, clearly trumps wickedness. Because with it you have what my life is: a clear conscience, albeit being excruciatingly devastated, broken by those who keep insisting that your brokenness be a going concern. My life is hard, but nonetheless I'm able to have joy in the morning. Why? Because I've taken that yoke of a hard life that's on the narrow road that leads to life that few people find on me, and it has been takeable. It's been carryable, that burden. It has been wearable. Why? Because of the fact that I've been enabled by a power that transcends all understanding. His name is Holy Spirit. He is the helper. And by him I've been enabled to put to death the deeds of the body. And I've also been enabled to take up a heavy, burdensome, uncarryable cross, but nonetheless carry it like it's feather light, all the way to Golgotha. I am able to take up my cross daily and follow Christ because I've been given a supernatural power to carry that yoke. Because God makes it easy and the burden of righteousness therefore light, such that even though you may be sad, you are actually happy. When you are weak, you are strong. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. It's a burden. We will not deny that righteousness is burdensome in a person who has got a sinful nature, who is born dead in trespasses and sins, and instance that his parents or her parents conceive him or her. It is rough to be righteous, but when you get born again, you are given an ability to do it with lightness. You are given an ability to do it with ease. So therefore, that which is hard to do, ignore the sinful nature, the slavery to sin. That which is rough to do, you are now enabled to easily do it because you're given power by the Holy Spirit to walk by faith and not so much by sight. These individuals, however, are striving against an earth that creases its forehead at the perseverance of these saints, because you don't understand why anybody would hold on to a God that apparently has abandoned them. But you don't understand the power of the Holy Spirit in a saint. When he is at work, you perish. And so therefore, being as foolish as you are, you think the things of God are foolishness. The things of God are foolishness to the man who is perishing. That is why you crease your forehead and don't understand why somebody is not quite dropping the ball on Christ when they walk with him in spite of a severity of adversity. We do so because his yoke is easy and his burden is light, coupled with the fact that we have purchased the pearl of great price, sold everything we had in order to acquire him. And so for those reasons, we don't easily let him go. And where we flounder, he remains faithful, even though we're faithless, for he cannot deny himself. We are kept in this position by the power of God. It is not by our will, our might, neither our strength, but by the power of God. This power of which, O Nicodemus, you will never understand him unless you seek him out. What must I do to be saved? You must be born again. But the Holy Spirit and his work in a saved saint is like the work of the wind, albeit being invisible, you nonetheless see its effects. So you essentially got to be here to understand why we hold on in spite of so much adversity. My life is hard, but it is a yoke that is easy and a burden that is light, coupled with the fact that my conscience is clear. You, however, do not have that clear conscience, and that's why I will always have one up on you. I wake up every morning burdened by the dust of occult magic that keeps on pressing on my chest, insisting that I do things I don't want to do. But I am innocent, and that's why I will always have one up on you. Because you don't wake up with the dust of occult magic chilling on your chest. You wake up with the dust of guilt that is going to send you to an eternal lake of fire that you are certain you are going to, but that you're in denial is a fact about. You are in denial about where you are going. You hope that this is going to end well, but how can it? I don't know how many times I have said this before. The level of wickedness that you walk in the occult, and how eerie, how creepy, how weird you make people's lives. If at all there was no staying power, if at all there was no force in existence at all on earth to brittle the depth and the height of excruciating darkness that you walk in, we long ago would have all imploded. We would have all reached entropy. The earth would have capsized on itself. It would have vomited on its own shirt. The earth would never be maintained if there was no God. Some people get led to Christ purely because this world is too evil for there to not be a God. So seeing as you have done such fruitless deeds, imagine if the extent of what you've done to my life was feasible for regular Janes and regular Joes. I am not the first person you have tried to freeze, stop the business thriving of. I'm not the first person you have attempted to keep from ever gaining any kind of money, working in gainful employment. I'm not going to be the first woman whose marriage you have tried to thwart, whose children you've tried to prevent from coming. I'm not going to be the first woman you have ever slept with, Korobela. I will not be the first person on earth that you have done these wonderful feats against. But I am a strange, ominous case. I am a very curious case indeed, because it appears every last spell that you cast on me, it appears as if though it is working. That's why you're so besotted with my case. That's why you are latching onto me for dear life. This is what God does when he hands people over to a reprobate mind. He gives them a strong delusion to believe that such exquisite, voluptuous, expensive, and voluminous witchcraft can actually work on a person unfettered, never mind a saint. I am, however, a saint. So therefore, for me to be this concealed, buried behind firewalls, and left to just suffocate under an excruciating volume of witchcraft, with there being no one coming for me, Gil is such a consecrated child of the living God, that ought have caused you to crease your foreheads, because being occult practitioners, having been involved with dark arts for as long as you have been involved in dark arts, you would know that the most difficult single group of people to work with is, you would know that the most difficult single group of people to work against is Christians. And yet here it is that you have encountered one that appears to be just such an easy strike. I appear to be just such an easy curse. I am falling, it appears, apart under literally every spell anyone can throw. And that is why you are perpetually investing in more and more sorcery. Yet, unfortunately, your sorcery is not meeting with the traceability matrix that is sharply 100% adhered to. Why? Because some spells appear to work while others don't work. The ones that have been working are the ones coming against my career, my ability to monetize, me being okay in marriage and love and romance and all that jazz. Yet all the spells that you have done to try and age me overnight, that has just hit a brick wall. Gray me overnight, hit a break wall. Fatten me, make me gain a whole bunch of weight. Basically stuff coming at my phenotypical appearance, that has just hit a brick wall. And then there is the excruciating brick wall that so many men are struggling with. It is the one to try and marry me off to them by whatever means necessary, come hell or high water. I have had so much korobela come at me that I don't even know why these men imagine any of them stand any kind of viable chance with me, granted that babangata as many of them as there are. Strangely, some of your spells work and others don't. And then of course there is the be all and end all of spell that you keep casting that keeps on hitting a brick wall, the death spells. First you attempted to kill me by natural causes, make sure that she does not wake up in the morning. That did not work. Let her get into some kind of a car accident when she's walking out in the road. Let a car hit her that has lost control. Did not work. And so in pettiness, given that that's just what you always graduate to, or rather deteriorate to, you then determined to make me kill myself, seeing as the death spells that you keep on conducting to get me killed by some other force don't work. You then imagined that the only way out here is by causing me to suddenly commit suicide, the way that you have killed so many other people in this world that did not know that that's what you were doing. Yeah, death spells don't work. Yet somehow, strangely, you are able to prevent me getting a job. I mean, what's more excruciating between death and unemployment? I feel as if though unemployment should be a far easier feat to overwhelm than a death spell. And yet somehow I overwhelm death spells and can't get a job. Why are you not seeing that you have been kept in a nice little position to essentially finish yourselves off? It is written in God's word that in the last days he is going to send out a strong delusion of on people, because in 2 Thessalonians 2, because you have not loved the truth but have rather insisted upon the lie, God sends you a strong delusion so you will continue with the lie. I want to read you 2 Thessalonians 2 from verse 8. It is written, "And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will kill with the breath of his mouth and bring to nothing by the appearance of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for," listen to this, "those who are perishing because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth but had pleasure in unrighteousness." This whole strong delusion thing is not something that happens only in the last days, but in the last days it happens in grand global measure. However, in the lives of saints of the living God all throughout the scriptures, you see it littered, where God essentially causes what appears to be the demise of his saint or the finishing off of his saint for no other reason but to give amnesty within the season of attrition of the saint, of which, in that season of the saint's attrition, the intention is to cause the repentance upon observing the obvious protected state of the saint of the living God. The intention is to cause the wicked encircling the saint to basically stay their hands from continuing in this insanity, and so therefore repent. That's the intention, but they never really do. So God keeps his children in a hot fire, that those that have insisted upon the lie and have not loved the truth may be handed over to the strong delusion of believing that the saint of the living God is not going to be okay, only for these people to get finished off by that very strong delusion, that you may be condemned who have not loved the truth but have rather taken pleasure in your unrighteousness. It's a whole strategy by God. You should be asking yourselves, why has the Lord preserved me in so much health? Nothing of me is falling apart, except for the fact that every time I apply for a job, it hits a brick wall. Every time I try to monetize anything, it hits a brick wall. The only thing that I am kept from doing here is achieving prosperity with fellowshipping with human beings. You have kept me buried in a dungeon and ascertained that nobody looks at me. You have also made sure I cannot make any money. You've essentially made me live such a weird life that all that anybody, once they finally watch my content, can assume is that yo, witchcraft is intense. You've essentially granted proof to sorcery that I struggled for years to get. You've given me proof of witchcraft, because this here, my life, if anybody were to look at it at all with a magnifying glass, can do nothing but conclude that yo, this is witchcraft. So even though it's not witchcraft, because understand, I'm not under any spells, I can't be, I am too consecrated. Yo, they don't make them equal in the kingdom of heaven. There are Christians that are doing strange compromising things like gossip every so often in the office. I am consecrated to God in a way that makes my prayers upon them being effective and fervent. They avail much. So if it appears that a Christian like that is getting nowhere, honey, you are set up for failure. There is nothing else coming here except your excruciating condemnation. And suddenly, it's going to come when you least expect it, because you will have been given what appears to be everything you've ever wanted on a silver platter. You will have been enabled to get away with an excruciating amount of murder in broad daylight and thought that this here is an actual going concern. You will have done that which has never been done before, continuing an unfettered evil that nobody is actually trying to strain. Understand that you are never ever going to win. It's impossible. No one ever has. Historically, men and women of that kind of evil nature have never succeeded indefinitely. They always get caught. They always get brought low. The monolith is always struck down. People resist and they revolt until these structures are eliminated. Nobody merely rests in so much oppression. People are not that scared or fearful of a tyrannical authority to do nothing. There's always one or two people rising up that gives them enough energy to strive for change in spite of fear. It's the way we are. We are self-preserving. There is an inherent understanding as human beings that if we maintain such oppressive structures in play, we are done for as a human race altogether. Oppression and fascism only lends towards entropy. It is an extinction level crisis, and a self-preserving human race therefore always tries to eradicate it. So you cannot be so incredibly oppressive and fascist and tyrannical as occult practitioners, doing this to completely innocent people, disenfranchising entirely gifted souls, making sure they cannot breathe, and not there be brewing tensions on the ground of a people with a riotous disposition out here trying to rabble, out here trying to rouse up, mob up, stand up against that which is obviously unsustainable in the long run. Tyrants don't see what an extinction level crisis they are in themselves because they are narcissistic. So therefore somebody has to overwhelm them by force. You can't therefore look at my life and imagine that these still quiet waters are just that, still and quiet. You can't get so much of your bread buttered on both sides and your cake, eat it, have it and eat it too. You cannot anticipate that this here, my situation, is just something that's going to slip through the cracks. It's too eerie. It's literally too eerie. There ought be a severity of consternation in you. You should be trepidatious. There should be an exquisite anxiety in the bones of everyone that has prospered to do this to my life. It's weird that it's going unchecked and unfettered. You cannot possibly imagine that it is possible to do this to a person's life just because you found out about witchcraft. You cannot possibly believe what's happening with my life. You cannot run with this. You have got to question it. Because in as many years as you have been involved in the occult, you have never seen this level of prosperity against a Christian. And so now that you are finally seeing it, you should be hella trepidatious about what's actually truly going on here. I'm here to tell you that thing. You have been sent a strong delusion because you have not loved the truth but have rather taken pleasure in your unrighteousness. You have chosen to believe the lie. And so God is sending you a strong delusion so that you can be condemned. You who have not loved the truth, but have taken pleasure, rather, in your unrighteousness. It's the end. No, never mind of the world here in totality, because that's also true, but for you. I got a plethora of dreams showing me mafu amangata, and I've been speaking about that the past couple of days. But you see, the sad thing about prophecy is that the first time a person gives a prophecy, you might be scared if that prophecy is scary. But if that person has been speaking that same prophecy for a year or for 2 years, that's when you start to relax, recline your chair, put up your feet, and think that ain't nothing coming. Now is the time. Now. I am telling you now that whatever I said 2 years ago, whatever I said 3 years ago, whatever I said 7 months ago, it's happening now. And when it happens, it's going to populate my ministry with strange occult presence. God has a thing about last-minute rescue of saints. And sometimes you might think that he's rescuing saints at the last minute for no other reason but to scare us into oblivion so that he can rock up and basically show himself as God and say to us, like he said to Peter, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you take your eyes off me?" No, God does not delight himself in the maintenance of our anxiety. He would much rather we not be scared. He says, "Do not be anxious for anything, but in all things by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known to me, to God. And his peace, which transcends all understanding, will guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." He says that perfect love casts out a fear, otherwise known as anxiety, and he who has been made perfect in love does not fear. Okay? So it is ideal that we should not take our eyes off Jesus and so start to drown like Peter. It is ideal that we should not be scared of anything that's going on around us. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's ideal. But God knows that we have little faith. He remembers that we are made of dust. So every so often we will nonetheless walk in an exquisite anxiety in spite of it not being necessary. But God does not delight in our anxiety. All right? He does not delight in it, but we walk in it anyway. Because we are trepidatious, we're scared. We look around and we feel like, but God, you've forsaken me. Why are you just taking so much pride in lingering me in so much suffering with nobody coming for me, with no avenue of escape? I mean, you know that I am in a lot of pain today, and you know that I'm scared today, and you know that they keep on casting suicide curses on me today. Why don't you just rescue me? But you see, that's just the thing. It's not that God is just this megalomaniacal, power-hungry guy in the sky that's happy to do a trick on you. Like, you know, that naughty boy in school that'll throw a plastic spider on your textbook and cause you to jump in fright, tossing desks around everywhere and causing disarray in the classroom. Only for you to later come to learn that, oh, it was a plastic spider while this boy is just giggling. God does not throw plastic spiders on our textbooks to just freak us out. When he is tarrying, or when he is appearing to take what looks like too long to rescue a saint, it is not the antics of throwing a plastic spider and then saying, I'm joking, you know I'd never throw an actual spider at you, Karabo. It is literally for your sake. The scared saint, the Lord says to him or her, I will remain faithful to you even though you are presently faithless, for I cannot deny myself. He will say to Peter, O you of little faith, why did you take your eyes off me? He will strengthen Peter after he rejects Christ 3 times before the rooster crows. He will do what is necessary because he knows that we are made of dust, to preserve us in spite of how scared we are. But if it was up to God, he would rescue us a lot earlier. He would. Now look, everything is up to God, but what I'm trying to help you understand is that he who is evil and he who is wicked and he who is unjust is so evil, wicked, and unjust. However, dealing with such a gracious, magnanimous God, that these people are the ones that delay the deliverance of saints, literally for the sake of God, not sending you to hell one moment too soon. It is always about magnanimity and mercy. It is always him awarding mercy right next to judgment. It is him giving people time. It is him knowing that Peter is of little faith, and that's why he takes his eyes off Jesus and starts to drown. But with Christ knowing that he is going to catch Peter, put him in the boat and say, oh, you of little faith. He knows that he's going to preserve Peter from finishing himself off in unbelief. Peter is safe no matter what. He cannot be plucked out from the hands of God. But somebody out there isn't. You, unlike Peter, upon drowning, will go not anywhere safe. Lazarus, Christ tarried, and the guy died until Christ wept. But then Lazarus came forth, he was resurrected. Christians are Lazarus. The Lord knows it is in his power to resurrect them at any given moment, even if they faint to the nth of themselves. But you see, only Lazarus can come forth. Some debauched man that did not know God does not have the luxury of being resurrected. Some debauched woman severely invested in the occult does not have the luxury of being fished out from the ocean like Peter after taking his eyes off Jesus. Though the righteous man may fall, it is written in God's word 7 times. They get up each time, but the wicked are suddenly overcome by calamity. The wicked die suddenly and then find themselves in this canyonic abyss, this outer darkness, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. They just find themselves in this dark environment. Suddenly. And it is that sudden finding yourself in the place that has only been set apart for the devil and his angels that God then delays deliverance for Karabo in order to try and eradicate. But you see,